I actually would like to thank Sanjay Leela Bhansali because the first comprehensive Bollywood film music album I would I can call my own is Dil De Chuke Sanam. So that is something which gave all of us a very a kind of a a recognition. What used to happen is you would record songs. Earlier, क्या होता था? The songs of various studios would be recorded, and they would all be compiled by the production team and sent to the music company for mastering, duplication. So if you notice those songs, they were different because they sounded different in various studios.
Somebody dubbed here, somebody
Yeah.
dubbed there.
The whole recording was like Sunny Super Sound had its own set of had its own sound. Bombay Lab had its sound.
Right.
Film Center had a typical sound. So when all these songs were combined in one album, they had a different. It was like it was really scattered, sonically very scattered. So I didn't want that to happen in Hum Dil De Chuke Sanam. So what I and Sanjay understood that, and especially Ismail understood that very well. And we kind of sat down and said, look, it's not possible for me to give my studio all the time for this thing because I might be booked for some other recording. So if you need to shoot a song, you might have to record today. But if I don't have the studio today, then you might have to do it somewhere else. But when you record somewhere else, you make sure that you get me the songs in all separate tracks. So we kind of decided that you go to this studio and record this song, but then get me the separate tracks. So either on hi-8 or on 2-inch 24 tracks, get me the separate tracks. Make sure that the voices are not processed. They're just, all your EQs and all your reverbs and all that are just for monitoring, but don't record it with them.
Just raw
Tracks of whatever you could. That's how I compiled all the songs. Most of them were recorded in my studio, and some of them which had to have Spectral Harmony Sound Records did not have a huge floor space. So some of them were recorded in bigger studios somewhere else. I had to re-record one song because the entire song was distorted in that particular studio. I will not mention the singer or the song, whatever. But I had to get that guy to re-sing that entire song. We all felt really bad because he'd sung it so well in the first place. But I respect Sanjay and I respect Ismail for the fact that they, kind of understood this whole process and said, no, whatever the case, we have to do this again. We cannot, let a distorted song go. Which was unheard of. Even in those days, even in like 98, 97. It was still unheard of. There was somebody taking care to sonically sound this thing. I will, of course, compliment Mr. A.R. Rahman for this because he made everybody more or less aware of
importance of
sound and how it should, the whole concept of sound. I do that wherever I can. I compliment Mr. A.R. Rahman because he is our,
or a flagship.
Yeah, he's a guy who actually pioneered the whole process of sound and showed them that it's possible. And what we did was I fortunately got all the tracks, started mixing them, and it would take 3 to 4 days to mix a song. And I had a small SADI computer with me which had a 2-in 4-out. It was a 2-in 4-out machine and it had 8 virtual tracks. But it was a brilliant machine. It sounded very nice. And what I used to do is whatever bounces and things like that we used to do off those 2-inch 24 tracks would be done on that. And whatever cleaning up edits and extending and little things. So I could do it on that and bring it back onto tape or leave it over there. But I would use that mostly to double up my FX processors. I would I had 4 signal processing units. So if I'm using a reverb patch on this, I want to use another chorusy effect on that. So I would record the reverb on the computer and I would now switch to the chorus patch and I had the chorus running with the reverb. Or I would, so it was a combination. Or if you're using it for a delay, then you're using it for another patch, a reverb patch. So this became like my processing, double up for processing. So effectively I had 8 processors, which was a lot in those days. So actually we started thinking virtual. Because of that, this whole virtual thing came in. So that's how we got into this whole... And after doing the entire mix, I mean, there would be days when I would start the mix in the morning. By the evening, I would finish automating the whole thing and then come back the next morning to have a listen. I have scrapped mixes like that because the next day they were sounding horrible. They were not sounding like what I thought it would sound. I was given this liberty to do that by Sanjay, and said, until you are satisfied, you don't tell me. Sometimes he would call, can I come now? I said, no, you stick to your editing. Let me just finish this, get this organized. And then you would come. Then Ismail and Sanjay would come. And more often than not, they kind of liked what I did. And of course, they would have their observations vis-a-vis film. Sanjay would say that, तूने एक effect वहाँ दिया था, which I have used in the film. So, acting वहाँ पे दिया था, which I have highlighted. So, don't remove that, or give it that extra boost in level. So these are sort of, because he was cinematically linking the songs to the film. Ismail had whatever little things that he had, but we used to sit, and it was a wonderful exercise because his arrangers would sit with me. Fortunately, they didn't need to tell me because I was doing the right thing. In those days, they used to have the arranger who would sit and say, "Acha, यहाँ string का run आ रहा है, यहाँ बढ़ाओ, यहाँ कम करो." So the recording engineer, I thought, was a very mechanical guy. बढ़ाओ, fader कम करो, ये mute करो, ये करो. No, I don't need that because fortunately I had an understanding of music, and I would like to, whoever is coming in this industry, who's coming to record songs and music, they have to be well versed. Today, even more so, with music. Because then otherwise you're wasting your time. If you don't have a background in music, then don't get into music recording. I would say don't get into recording, period. You cannot not understand music and then get into a soundscape of a film. Today, fortunately, what has happened is a lot of the new generation is much more aware. They are much more sonically, their tastes have, they have good sensibility, good listening, and good audio to start with. They don't have to deal with problems like tape hiss. They don't have to deal with problems like bad speakers, and you have an iPod, you have headphones, which gives you the cleanest and purest form of sounds. If you could afford it, you have a good music system at home. But by and large, they are sensitized to good quality sound.
Right.
And therefore, they will not settle for anything less. So today, when I'm sitting and working over here, I know you as a listener, if you're just a listener, you will pick out the flaws and say, why is this sounding odd? So I cannot take that risk. I need to have a certain finesse in my job.
The listener may not know that this frequency is not sounding good, but he will find that there's something not as good
something
as...
Something is not right. Something is discordant. Something is, if there are 2-3 different kinds of harmonies, if it is... Therefore, music production and arrangement and recording go hand in hand. So now that line is kind of thinned out. The programmers and the arrangers have become really smart. They understand sound so well. And fortunately, what is happening today is, like, as a mix engineer, you don't have issues of basic sound aesthetics having a problem, So those aesthetics and your sensibility, your evolved sensibilities has probably even reduced my work to a certain extent. So, and I'm sonically now concentrating on this. So, but what also does happen is you end up producing some of the tracks in your own way, adding new sounds to this thing, only when you're asked, of course. I try and make sure that it does not take away from the essence of the song. Suddenly your song should not become somebody else's song. So I just, you need to give that thickness, you need to give that body very subtly, but to give a body to the whole thing.
No longer just a technical thing, it is also your job is also a very creative process.
Oh yes.
It's no longer, like you just said, a mechanical thing that level बढ़ाओ, कम करो, इसको mute करो, इसको ये करो. You're not like just following an operator kind of instructions.
Yeah.
You're bringing in your own expertise.
You're bringing in your aesthetics.
Experience.
The way I had treated the violins or the string instruments or the mandolins or the percussions in Dil De Chuke Sanam was more my taste. That was what I wanted to this thing. So I had, and that went down very well with both the director and the music director. And later I find a lot of people who are not associated with the industry have called me as a technician to compliment me on the work. So personally, I found that very satisfying because we were going away from that standard tabla dholak ritual of the industry, the routine. We were breaking away from that, even in terms of sounds, even in terms of that hard violin and karke aa raha hai, that. So we were giving it some kind of, I thought we were giving it some kind of a class. We were giving it some kind of a different sound. It was sounding more, it was sounding better. It was sounding sweeter, it was sounding more melodic, it was sounding, where it required thickness, it did require thickness, like the Dholi Taro song. So I insisted on seeing the film before I started doing the song mixes. So when I saw the song, I saw like there was a djembe solo happening at one particular point, and what Sanjay had shot was like these huge dhols, guys with huge dhols tumbling into the frame. So I said, boss, we need to add low frequency there. We need a downbeat. We need more of this thing. Because when you have conceived the song as a composer, you have conceived with a certain thing. And when I have shot it, I have used that. But when I'm looking at it effectively, now I need to, now the visuals are like this. Now the song looks a little small in this.
You need to make it also
I
match.
need to make the song as grand as the visuals that I'm seeing. And more relevant. Which is why the stereo mix and the mix for the songs, the surround mix for the songs with film is something which I concentrate on. Because it's different. Now what happens is the music, the song mix becomes a little more cinematic. Because what was backing vocals over there have suddenly you realize they've become like a group singing in front. So it's not backing vocals anymore, you know, it's a song. So you're adding, sometimes I call the backing vocals, I call vocalists, I call chorus singers, extra singers. I make them stand and they add more body to it, add more volume to it. I did that for Devdas as well, where you realize that there are these 300 dancers in front and there are just two percussions, two ghungroos playing in the start. So you call up the assistant and say, boss, I want 25 kilo ghungru. So the guy actually came and filled up my table with all the ghungroos that they used on location. So I had these three musicians sit left, center, right, decked up with ghungroos and shaking with Madhuri Dixit on the screen. So that added a lot of richness to the high end of the percussion. So it was consistent with the film. It was and you tried to keep the same aesthetics that you did for the album.
I mean, it's very obvious seeing the number of awards that I can see that your work is also being recognized. Does this give you more energy, more boost? Take your mind off the bank balance for a while at least. That you know that.
Boss, I mean, if my mind was on the bank balance, I would have quit long ago. But what happens is these awards, they're great when you get it. When somebody else gets it, also you feel damn great. But what is my biggest thing is when the director or the music director gets up and gives you a hug and says, boss, this is what I was looking at. So that is your biggest reward because eventually it is aesthetically, appealing and it's something that has gone down very well and he has realized that I've added some value to whatever he has done. That has been my biggest high. I won't trade anything for that, not even my bank balance for that.
You worked a lot with Rajkumar Hirani and Vidhu Vinod Chopra.
Yeah, actually Parinda was made in 1988, it was released. 87 we had come to Bombay, so we were still kids but we were associated in indirectly in certain ways because I remember actually last night we had this Vinod Chopra film retrospective was going on. And yesterday was the premiere with Parinda of this whole process. So for us it was really a journey down nostalgia. And I remember that as a student, as a student unit, the director was Sriram Raghavan, the person who has directed Agent Vinod and Johnny Gadar and all that, Rajkumar Hirani. Myself doing the sound. Rajkumar was the editor and Harina was the cameraman. So we had come to Bombay in 87 because our diploma film had to start and we wanted to cast Shiv Subramaniam, who was working with Vinod and co-scripted Parinda, also acted in it. So we wanted to speak to him and cast him and we landed up at Film Center And for us, it was a different feeling when you're seeing R.D. Burman standing over there, the legend standing over there in the studio, and three of us are here, and we're waiting, and this kind of welcomed us into the whole process. So as students, we have gone to cast this thing, but we're also taking in all this, absorbing in this whole thing about, and it was fantastic because then we got Shiv, and because of Shiv, we got Nana Patekar to act in our diploma film as well. So it kind of moved around like that. And then we came and our student film was called The 8-Column Affair, and we had great fun doing that as well. But it was a journey. It was a journey in the past, and I was very fortunate to have these people as my batchmates and contemporaries. Because we were a wacky bunch, and we enjoyed. There was a lot before they became this thing. So there is still a lot of interaction. There's still a lot of this thing. So there were little things that we would sit and work on. Raju would make AVs and ads, and we would do sounds for that. We would create things for that. So it's not just the film is, it's one or two or three films that people are seeing, but then there are some 300 things that we have done together which people may or may not see in this thing. But it is that association, it is that closeness, which happens with every, like today, if there's a younger generation, they'll have their contemporaries working, they will share their this thing. But I'm very fortunate to be able to work with all kinds of generations. But the seniors I have vibed with very well. My juniors who are making films, they have, so I was a kind of an anchor or a support system for their whole project, and I would say that don't worry about the sound. They know that I will, keep that very steady for them. So that acted as a kind of that acts as a that gives them the confidence, both the composer or the new entrant into the industry. I've had a lot of these people who were new and who kind of held your hands, and you kind of also was part of their tried to help in whatever way in trying to give them a push in their thing. So I enjoy doing that, and for me, like, if there's a small young boy or a young girl who walks into this thing, he's got as much potential as some of the most successful professionals in this industry. So my whole approach has never been to downgrade them or
look down upon
them, or do things,
or not even associate with them.
And not make them feel uncomfortable or make them feel like they're new. Because I don't believe in that. I know this guy's going to grow up tomorrow because he has the potential. I can see it. I can see that this guy's got potential. So he's going to definitely grow and be somebody. So, and I want to help him achieve that if I can. We did not have too many people doing that. In our times, we did not have a lot of people who are this thing. Though I had one or two seniors who did help me directly or indirectly. So this is a place where it's an aesthetic, it's an artistic medium, and I don't see any kind of animosity. I don't see any kind of this thing.
So it's, everyone is open to sharing.
They should be. Otherwise, how do you create? And it's a privilege for me to be a part of that creation. As a technician, I would want to be a part of your creation if you're creating. And help. I want to take all the technical headache. Like, the director should not have this thing, sound-wise what is happening. Or the music director should not think that, I know that technically if I can put this onto his head, I'm taken care of. So much of the bull work or the dirty work is done by us, sorted, and then served on a platter, till where he decides that, okay, this is either damn good for him or he needs some improvement on that, whatever.
Exactly your involvement since your post-FTI days that you've got into music.
Oh, yes.
Recording with the engineering background that you have.
Yes.
And is how you were doing such a wonderful job as a sound designer.
I hope so.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks.
And it was great
Thanks
to have you.
for having me.
Okay. Thank you so much.